Imagine, if you will, that you wake up in a pool of your own sweat. You can't move. Something is sitting on your chest, and it's a naked man. Or is it a demon? You try to scream, but all that comes out is a whimper. You've just entered the Haint Zone. Today, we speak with two very funny podcasters who have had some seriously sinister experiences in their past. Please welcome the dynamic duo from Live, Laugh, Larceny. Today on Homespun Haints. Hello, Hainted Loves. Welcome to Homespun Haints. I'm Becky.
And I'm Diana.
Yes, Diana is back! Woo,
Did you hear that? I have vanquished the sea witch. I got my voice back.
Yay.
It was challenging.
I'm so glad you're back with us, whole with your vocal cords intact.
I know. I'm so pleased.
Hainted Loves, the interview that you're going to hear today was recorded before Diana returned to us from her long vocal cord retrieval session. So we will be hearing from Carly as our wonderful guest ghost host, Carly the Village Tarot Witch, who is one half of the Drinks and Disasters podcast, which you definitely will want to make sure that you check out. Listen for that interview in a few minutes. And we also have some wonderful guests on the show today. We have Trevin and Amanda from Live, Laugh, Larceny, which is another amazing podcast all about true petty crime. It's such a gas to listen to. Did I just say that? Oh my gosh, I'm so old-fashioned.
It's such a gas.
It's such a gas. It is really a fun show, and so is Drinks and Disasters. We'll have links to both of those in the show notes. Carly did an amazing job. She can never be you, Diana, but she did an amazing job being Carly. But before we bring on Carly and Trevin and Amanda, Diana, I want to go down a little walk down memory lane.
Aww.
A few weeks ago when you were here in town, I'm going to make fun of you a little bit. Well, you might make fun of me a little bit. So anyway, whatever. This is how I treat you when you come back. Let's do a roast.
Fair.
Fair. So Diana always likes to play the city mouse, country mouse thing with me, that she's the city girl and I'm the country girl.
That's ironic. Do I? I just don't like it when you refer to me as an Oklahoman because I'm not.
Okay. All right. Fair.
Or
Gotcha.
say that I'm from a town. I'm not from a town. Granted, Oklahoma is a whole nother country, so I don't know if I'm from a city either, but I'm not from a town.
You came to visit me in Atlanta, and I wanted to take you to Oakland Cemetery.
That's true. Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm going to talk about.
I do. I remember this. This was a very nerve-wracking car ride for me.
Was it all the traffic getting down there?
No, it was you going, oh yeah, so-and-so I know got shot, and then so-and-so I know got a bomb threat, and so-and-so I know has to dodge bullets every time they leave their building and go to their car. Oh, and here we are. It was you. It was building my expectations for it to be terrifying.
I thought it was the environment. So yes, it is downtown kind of in Atlanta, which isn't the most fabulous place safety-wise. It's not bad. I mean, there's definitely worse places in Atlanta. But as we're driving down there, I was talking about my friends that work down there and what their lives were like. And then I think you also saw what the streets looked like down there with the chicken wire and the strange other occurrings. I have seen Johns get picked up down there. I have seen transactions taking place on the street. I've seen all sorts of fun things happen. And I'm like, whatever. And I'm just driving through. And you started demanding I turn the car around.
It's like, this is not safe. Why are we down on Skid Row? Dressed in heels and short skirts and as blatantly, obviously nerds as we could possibly be. We don't have a single bone of thug in our presentation right now. Nobody is afraid of us. We look like victims. We should not be in this area right now.
Oh, is that what you were thinking?
Yes.
You were genuinely scared. I don't think I've ever actually seen you genuinely scared before.
Well, I'm not scared of ghosts and clowns and shit. I'm scared of people who have nothing left to lose attacking me.
You were like, Becky, turn the car around. I'm serious. I'm not cool with this. Becky, where are you taking me? Becky, where? And then I was like, and we're here. And you're like,
Oh, it was very pleasant. By the time we got to the cemetery, it was very nice.
you were like, oh, this is really nice.
Yeah.
I do remember after we went through the cemetery and we had lunch. That was very nice.
It was nice. Yeah.
And then we came back and I made the comment, I was like, oh, I hope the car is still there. And you just grabbed my arm. Like, what? Like, welcome to Atlanta.
I'm not getting stuck down here with the dead on Skid Row. No, thank
Uber.
you.
There's Uber. I think I said something to you along the lines of, don't worry, I'm armed. This is why I'm a brown belt in Hapkido. We'll be fine.
I'm not a brown belt in Hapkido. You're smaller than me. What if they take you out first?
And that did not make you feel any better.
No, it didn't. No. Don't worry. I'm ready for a fight. I have a weapon. Does not comfort me one bit. Nope. Don't bring a Hapkido brown belt to a gunfight. That's my rule.
By armed, I meant I had my pocket knife on me.
Oh, I thought you meant you had strong arms, because you really do.
I do. I'm very strong.
Gonna stab you with my Swiss Army knife. Nice.
Did you know that you can actually cut a person with your elbow if you hit them just right?
What?
You can actually slice somebody's cheek open with your elbow if you get like just the tip of it. The elbow is a powerful weapon.
Mine just aren't that sharp. My olecranon process is really smooth.
Well, I sharpen mine.
Oh, like my teeth.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yes, I sharpen my elbows.
That would be an interesting surgery to have in the future when we all have body mods like it's candy. Yeah, I want sharper elbows.
Sharp shoulder blades. That would be cool too. Little spikes coming out the back.
Ooh, I like that. I'm not a hugger. It would be very convenient for me if I had very sharp shoulders.
Well, so there you go. I just wanted to bring you back down memory lane. And I don't know if that makes me more of a city girl or you more of a city girl, listeners. We've had the discussion before of who's more goth. Maybe we need to have the discussion of who's more city girl.
I think so. Yeah, it's definitely not me. I'm terrified.
I guess I've just gotten used to it.
So is my fear the real silliness, or is it your inability to feel fear in situations like that after having been so overexposed to them in places like Chicago?
The fact that I'm so jaded by it.
That you're so jaded that you're like, I'm fine. I have a pocket knife. Nobody's going to attack me in my short skirt and my heels. Hee hee. I don't know. I think perhaps that's willful ignorance.
No, again, that kind of gets into what we talked about on our Patreon last week, is that it's better to know how to protect yourself than to be fearful.
True.
That was my way of dealing with my anxiety. It's learning how to protect myself. And yes, I am very jaded. I have done some stupid ass shit.
Listeners, what do you think? Is Diana overly cautious or is Becky overly jaded? And would you like us to release an elf defense video for the holidays? I really want to do that.
I know. We'll have to do it virtually, but we'll figure it out.
Someone will have to play my neck and someone will have to play your hands.
We can make it work.
It'll work.
Speaking of me being in silly, dangerous scenarios, our guests, Live, Laugh, Larceny, I actually shared a story with them that they shared on their show about a time that I was wandering through a very, very nasty section of Chicago during what could have been a pea souper. It was so thick you couldn't see a block ahead of you. And the situation I got myself into that evening. You can listen to that episode and decide who was committing the petty crime. I think it was all of us. By us, meaning me and the people I encountered along the way, because there's some interesting stories for that evening. I learned some lessons that night.
I think that's a story I don't even know.
You'll have to listen to it.
I'm going to listen to Live, Laugh, Larceny and hear that.
Before we bring on Trevin and Amanda and Carly, Diana, we have 3 new patrons to give shout outs to.
Thank you. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Big thank you to Stacy. A big thank you to Tracy. And a huge thank you to Felicia. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Stacy, Tracy, and Felicia, for being our patrons. Welcome. Ooh, you're going to love it.
Yes, welcome to the madness that is our Patreon. Thank you for being part of the Patreon family. You guys are going to get some bonus episodes, some swag, some cool stuff in the mail. The holidays are coming up, so you join just in time.
Some personalized tarot readings, some personalized dream interpretation.
Now that you've got your voice back, we can actually do that.
Speaking makes it easier.
Yes. So thank you guys so much for joining our Patreon. If you want to join our Patreon and see what all the fun is about, go to patreon.com/homespunhaints. And if you're not a member of our Patreon, enjoy this commercial.
Do you find crime podcasts to be a little too murdery? Then take a break from all things heavy and get petty.
Join us, Amanda and Trevin, as we share killer facts, dreadful dilemmas, and tell real-life petty crime stories in the style of an audio drama.
There, sprayed all over the aisle floor and 8 display wigs, was a fresh pile of poo. Listen to Live, Laugh, Larceny on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Today on this special episode, we actually don't have Diana on the show. We have Carly, the Village Tarot Witch. She is also one half of Drinks and Disasters, very new podcast that she's doing with, I know her as Busy Bee Coven.
Yeah, her name is Busy. We call her Busy. Busy from Busy Bee Coven.
Excellent. Carly is graciously sitting in for Diana today because Diana unfortunately made a bad agreement with a sea witch and she lost her voice. So she will be back hopefully in a few weeks. I understand that she's down scuba diving trying to find the witch and figure out an agreement that they can come to. But in the meantime, Carly has graciously agreed to sit in and be our guest host for the episode because today we have two amazing podcasters on the show. You may be familiar with the podcast Live, Laugh, Larceny, formerly known as Seriously Sinister. We have aired promos for them on this show. So hopefully you are familiar with the voices of the amazing Amanda and the tremendous Trevin. Guys, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you. I loved that introduction.
Tell us a little bit about Live, Laugh, Larceny and a little bit about your journey and how long you guys have been doing it.
As you said, our show used to be called Seriously Sinister. We quickly realized that maybe it was a little bit too sarcastic of a name for what we do. We are still the same show, just a new name. Literally, that's the only thing that has changed. But gosh, how long have we been doing this now, Trevin? A year and a half?
We'll be hitting 2 years in March.
We wanted to be a part of the amazing true crime community, and I'm really into the more serious true crime, but Trevin is more into comedy, stuff like that. And so we were trying to find a way to combine interest a bit. And Trevin had this really fun idea of discussing petty crimes. It turns out, it just so happened to work out that we're both good at writing stories. I really don't know how that happened. We never talked about it beforehand at all.
Mm-mm.
And then Trevin's really good at audio stuff. So do you want to explain that part of it, Trevin?
My whole idea was I just wanted to parody off of what true crime podcasts do. I thought, okay, true petty crime is funny. I love full production things. I've always been a person that's just like, how big can you make something, especially on a budget? I love doing that. I took the idea of doing like this documentary feel where they have the sound effects or the cheesy reenactments and stuff. And I thought, well, how can I do that in audio form? And so I put weird, cheesy reenactment sound effects, original music, and anything to just build the drama up for something that the news doesn't make dramatic when they're just like, oh, teacher caught pooping on the track or something like that. But we build it up into a huge story.
And it is so much fun to listen to. And the sound effects and the music and the seriousness, the tone with which you play it straight when you tell these stories. It is so much fun to listen to. I adore your show. I'm so thrilled that you are making it, and you've become very successful with it too recently. You've gotten a lot of press and you've just joined iHeartRadio's network.
That's amazing.
Yes, it really is.
Oh, it's so exciting. Yeah, I also love y'all's show. I'm a fan of Petty. Like, I live every week. I'm like, oh, what are they going to post? Because those Petty stories, like, call me Petty Spaghetti, Petty Betty, whatever you want. Like, I'm here for it. You poop on that floor and then tell me about it.
Oh my gosh. Well, hey, vice versa. We really love both of your guys' shows too. And it's so great to finally sit down and talk to you both. We've been friends for so long, and it's just really nice to chat with you both.
We wanted to talk to you because you guys have ghost stories for us. And I don't know if they're going to be of the petty kind or not, but I'm really excited to hear what you have to share with us today. Who would like to go first?
Trevin has a story about having sleep paralysis.
All right, Trevin, let's hear from yours, the sleep paralysis.
Okay.
We'll see if there's a demon involved.
I used to live with a couple of my friends, two guys that I grew up with, and we had a little townhouse outside of Kansas City. And it was one of those, I think it was like a quadplex technically, where the houses are all like just the vertical sets, where there's an upstairs and whatnot. I was the middle room upstairs, and between the two rooms was almost like the hallway had a little balcony window where you could look down and see where the stairs were. On one night, we had partied really late the night before, and so I hardly had any sleep. And I do get sleep paralysis episodes like once a year. It's very random. It's just usually about once a year. And this particular one felt so real. I was laying in bed. I was finally getting some sleep because I really needed it. But as I was laying there, I was kind of in that point of half awake, half asleep, but I could feel something outside of the door moving. I could tell exactly where the sound was coming from, and it sounded like something had climbed its way up that little balcony in the stairwell. It sounded like something had crawled up over it, but then I started hearing that sound of when a carpeted floor is getting stepped on, and it's that little bit of a creak. I didn't think too much of it until I heard... I don't even know how to explain it. Like when you feel like where something's moving in the room, even if it's not making any noise, you can feel the atmosphere is shifting a little bit. I heard it just moving back and forth to my side until I opened up my eyes and looked, and it was like a complete black figure. It looked like it had a bald head, like just a straight shadow, but it was just pacing the length of my bed right beside my bed. I tried not to make a noise, hoping that it wouldn't do anything, and then it eventually stopped and turned its head and looked at me. Well, at that point, I had realized that I could not move, and it was like a full-on sleep paralysis thing, because at first I thought it was just my imagination, then I realized, oh, I'm paralyzed here and can't do anything. It had moved towards me and put its face right in my face, and then I could feel like a pressure on my shoulders, and by that point, I had just started trying to scream for somebody. And eventually I was able to break out of it and start screaming one of my roommates' names. And then it finally went away.
Holy shit.
Wow.
So it disappeared after you were able to scream. So you were no longer paralyzed and you were still seeing it, correct?
Yes.
And did it just slowly walk out the door? How did it exit?
Once I had finally able to move, I had just jumped forward into the light and turned it on. So it just went away.
So you said that you have sleep paralysis like once a year. Having an actual entity in the room with you was a different experience.
I've never had an entity like that before.
That's so scary.
Oh my God. Did you ever see this figure again, or was that the one and only time?
That was the one and only time. When I first started dating my girlfriend, I had sleep paralysis. It was the first time she had ever stayed the night, which is just like, what are the chances of something like that? She had stayed the night with me for the first night, and I had had a sleep paralysis episode, but I don't remember seeing anything in that moment. It was just like I felt frozen, and I was trying to call for help, and it's still a joke that her and I make now. I felt trapped down again and couldn't move, and I was like trying to whimper and move, and she rolled over and just kept nudging me and just going, shut the fuck up. Then I finally woke up and was just like, oh my God, my heart's beating. I'm like scared to death. And she's just like, thanks for inconveniencing me.
I'm trying to sleep.
I was like, oh, thank you so much for nudging me and being annoyed by me. And she's like, don't mention it, just let me go back to sleep.
Oh,
That is funny.
So you two are more familiar with the paranormal and spooky things. Have you heard about this exact black figure entity before?
Oh, yeah.
Sleep paralysis is one of those things that gets tossed back and forth. Is this an anxiety disorder? Is it your body thinking that you're trapped? Blah, blah, blah. But you've experienced it several times without an entity. If you start to dig into sleep paralysis cases, there are people who report seeing the same entity, like people who don't have anything connecting them. They're describing the same type of figure. I'm thrilled. That's your story. But what do you know, Becky? Because you're nodding like you have information.
Oh, no, I was just agreeing with you. That's absolutely what we hear on the show. We've talked to a lot of people with sleep paralysis, and when they see something, with the exception of maybe one or two people, it's all the same dark shadow. We've heard people say it almost seems like they're wearing a hood. You said this was bald, so maybe it could have had a hood on or something that made it look like it was bald. I'm not sure if that rings true or anything, but it comes and it hovers over them. It moves back and forth along the length of the bed. We've heard that one too. Feeling like you're having pressure on your shoulders or your chest, like it's not letting you up. And like Carly said, I find it really odd that if this is a weird psychosis in our brains or something, why is it the same for everyone? We don't
Right.
all have the same dreams, right? So
Yeah.
why would we have the same?
The same sleep paralysis demon or, entity, whatever you want to call it.
In Middle Ages, it was considered a demon. This is a phenomenon that's been recorded for hundreds of years. Who knows how far back it goes? My theory, I think it's something probably like the Hat Man. It's probably some sort of entity that we're able to see or experience when we're in that weird liminal space in our subconscious. You're between sleeping and waking. And if you can actually get yourself in that space on a regular basis, if you're just not sleeping regularly or whatever, and you have a lot of these weird half awake episodes, you start to hear and see a lot of weird shit, and could be part of it hallucinations, but I think there's something to it. So, Trevin, not to freak you out or anything, but yeah, I think you saw something real there.
You're probably right.
You got a demon in your room, bro.
Yep. Yep.
Well, I'm long removed from that house, so we're good.
You're good.
And there's a couple things, like Carly mentioned, this is the only time you actually ever saw this fellow.
Yep.
Even though you've had sleep paralysis in the past. And then the other thing is you actually had broken out of the sleep paralysis and were screaming, and yet you still saw it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing. We've had people who have seen this thing when they were like trying to go to sleep or just woken up, but they weren't paralyzed, but they were
Right.
still like moving. So yeah.
Oh my god.
Spooky.
Okay, yeah, I was wondering if you guys had heard a similar thing. That's so
Oh, hell yeah.
crazy that they
Yeah.
pace back and forth and put pressure on your shoulders. Like, get off of me.
Yeah, it's usually described as like someone literally pinning you down. I'm interested to know because you seemed like your gut reaction was like Jurassic Park style. If I don't move, don't make a sound, it can't hear me until it
Yep.
turned and looked at you. But I wonder if anybody else have you heard of anybody else saying that, Becky?
There have been instances where people have been like, okay, I'm going to be perfectly still. Maybe it will go away.
Don't move.
Yeah. There have been instances where people have been asleep next to somebody else who's been awake, and that waking person hasn't seen this thing.
Mhm.
It's only the person
That's
who's
interesting too.
kind of in that weird in-between space. But they'll stay still because they're worried it will hurt their partner who's in bed next to them. So when it looked at you, did you see any eyes, Trevin?
I didn't. It was completely black, nothing else. It really just looked like a naked person with no hair and just completely black. But it was a turning of the shoulders. That it was a whole body. The whole body turned and looked at me. It was very obvious it was looking at me. But no, I don't recall ever seeing eyes. It was no features at all.
Ugh, heebie-jeebies.
I don't like that.
Well, at least it wasn't wearing a hat. We don't like the Hat Man. He's scary.
I don't know about that guy, but if it's worse than this, then no.
Yeah, it kind of is. Trevin, thank you so much. That was terrifying.
Oh, no problem.
Probably more for you than for us.
Yeah.
Amanda,
Yes.
you grew up in a haunted house.
Yes. I definitely have some things that happened that were very unexplained to like the logical mind. I grew up in a very small town. I like to call it a village just because it was so small. We grew up in this very, very tiny house. My dad ended up like building a whole addition onto the house because it was so small when we first moved in. And the whole time we lived there, my mom was like in love with the house across the street. The house across the street, a really sweet older couple lived in it. And it was beautiful. It was a brick house. It had this gigantic porch. It was kind of like cottagey vibes. It was very pretty. And my mom was just always, oh, I love that house. I wish we lived in that house. And she actually became friends with the couple that lived there. And she said, if you guys ever decide to move, please let me know. Eventually, they were an older couple, and the husband ended up going to a nursing home facility. And right before he had left, I remember he actually had dementia, and he would come over across the street, and there were a couple times where he would tell my dad, I just saw a bunch of people, like, in the house, and my dad would go over there, and there was nobody there, and just, like, weird things like that. And I don't know if that was just dementia. I don't know much about it. So they ended up moving, and she immediately told my mom, hey, we'd like for you to buy the house. We moved in, and I was in middle school, 8th grade when we moved in there. It was a very cool house, but there was always, I don't know, just a vibe that we weren't alone in the house. A couple of the experiences that I had happen, there was a room upstairs, a bedroom. I started out in that bedroom, and I later ended up moving into the basement because I was a teenager, and I was like, I need my privacy, you know? You know how teenagers do.
I'm still that way.
Exactly. There were 3 bedrooms upstairs, and when I was in the upstairs bedroom, before I had moved back down, every single night, I used to wake up at the exact same time. I wish that I could tell you guys the exact time. I know it was 3-something. I don't remember if it was like 3:11 or 3:33, but it was something really specific like that. And I know it was like 3 a.m. of some sort. Every night I slept in that room, I would wake up at the exact same time. And I didn't feel like panicked or anything, but it was like someone was in the room with me, like a presence. And I would always wake up and I'd be calm. I'd be a little confused, like, what am I doing awake? But I would go back to sleep. And as soon as I moved down to the basement, that stopped happening. And then there were times when I moved away to go to college, and I would come back and I would sleep in the upstairs room, and I would wake up at the exact same time still when I would return to the house. So I don't know what that was. This is probably the spookiest situation I experienced, though. I was in 8th grade, maybe 9th grade. I was having a sleepover with a bunch of girls over. We had made like a big floor bed with sleeping bags and pillows in the basement. And the light switch in the basement was a dimmer, like a circular knob, and you could push it to turn the light on. You could choose if you wanted it dim or really bright or whatever. The light was on. We were all downstairs in the basement and just giggling, gossiping, and the light slowly began to dim off. Of course, we're a group of girls, and we're all just like, ah! I'm like, okay, it's not really like their personality, but I was like, maybe my parents are messing with us, maybe my little brother's messing with us. And I was like, okay, whoever did that, like, not funny. And we're all in the pitch black, and then the light slowly dims back on. Immediately when the light turns back on, me and like 3 other girls are like arms linked together, and we get up and go over there. Nobody is down there. My brother's not in the basement. My parents aren't in the basement. Nobody. So maybe you could think maybe the dimmer would fall one direction, but for it to go both directions, that's the thing that really weirded me out. I was like, how did that happen? The last thing I'll share too is, because there were a lot of little things, like this thing was moved, just weird feelings. Though my dad actually had an experience too. And just to preface this with saying he is a huge skeptic on all things paranormal. But he even said one time he was alone in the house, and he heard a banging in the basement, like somebody was like punching the wall, like not just a small noise, like a bang, bang. And he said he went to the top of the stairs and he was looking down and he heard something going like, ch, 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 ch. And he was like, oh, hell no. Oh, hell no. He's like, usually I don't get scared. I don't get freaked out about these things. But he's like, I was home alone. I turned on every single light upstairs. And he's like, and I did not go down there. So just really weird little things like that. I always felt a presence in the house, but it was never like evil or heavy. It was kind of more like, I'm here, like a mischievous, I don't know.
How old was the house? Do you know?
Oh, God, I wish I knew. It was probably pretty old. This is in Kansas. My tiny town is called Leon, Kansas. Literally a few hundred people maybe live there. They only have one paved road. And there's one flashing street light on the one paved road.
The Midwest, especially rural Midwest, is haunted as fuck. It's not as bad as Florida, but it is. It is. We've heard so many stories out of Iowa, Missouri, Kansas. You wouldn't think, but yeah, those old prairie people coming through must have died of a lot of cholera or something. It's just so haunted.
I don't know what it was, but have you guys ever heard of the waking up at the same time situation? Is that like a thing? Okay.
Yeah, I've had it happen. It'll happen to me sometimes, and it's always usually around the same time, 3 a.m. It's the witching hour. And for whatever reason, it just seems to be a window of time that it's a little bit easier for spirits to pass through. But for it to happen every night like that makes me think that it's some sort of residual haunting where it's the same thing over and over, because it wasn't happening to other places. So it's not like someone was specifically visiting you. I like, this is my imagination. I'm just clarifying that. But I got a real kick out of imagining just like this old like grandpa ghost being like, the fuck? There's a girl in my bed. What are you doing here?
Carly's exactly right. I couldn't have explained it better myself. The 3 to 4 a.m. window, it is like the darkest time of night because it is right before dawn comes. The moon has set. And it is supposed to be that time when things can come through. It's also a time when like your allergies might start acting up. There's just all sorts of weird things about that time period. I've heard so many stories, even growing up, of people awaking at the exact same time. It used to happen to my mom, actually. But I guess when you would wake up, you never saw anything, right? You just woke up and were like, why am I awake? And went back to bed.
I never saw anything at all. But every night, I remember I would always look at the clock, which me as a person, I don't really care about time. I'm bad with timing. I never really know where I am or what's going on. But I remember every time I was sleeping in that room, my eyes would always immediately go to the clock, and it was always the same time. And that's not really something I would necessarily just do on my own. It just kind of felt like whatever or whoever it was, because I knew there was like something in the room. It was wanting me to know this is a pattern. I'm here. I don't know how to explain it, but I never felt scared, but maybe like confused or like, why am I awake? And why is this happening only in this room? And I did feel a presence of something.
From the sounds of that, it does seem to be more of like what I was describing earlier, the residual haunting, which is where they will go through the same repetitive motions every night. Since it's tied to this one room specifically, it just feels like a repetitive action. And there's different theories on residual hauntings that like there's not really any awareness there from the spirit. It's just an imprint of every night at this time, they got up to get a drink of water, went back to bed or whatever, and the motion of that could have disrupted you. Your other two experiences are interesting to me too, because that seems like two separate things to me.
Yes. The light being turned on and off, and then my dad hearing the banging on the wall, that all happened in the basement.
Okay.
The waking up thing, that happened upstairs. I never heard noises or any of that upstairs, but downstairs is where we would hear the sounds, and the lights would be moved and things would be moved around downstairs.
It does sound like something was very specific to your bedroom.
Specific to the basement. basement. You had the little mini poltergeist or something down there.
That's not uncommon, though, for a place to have more than one ghost. It's pretty common, actually.
Yeah. And again, like that one in the basement, I don't know. That one scared me a little bit more just because it was like physically touching things. But again, that one didn't really feel scary either. It felt mischievous to me.
Yeah.
Where the other one just felt like, I want you to notice that I'm here, but I'm not going to disturb you other than waking you up. But the one in the basement was like making noise, touching things, and was like, I'm going to try and scare you a little bit without being too scary.
Yeah, a little trickster spirit just had some fun messing with people for shits and giggles.
Yeah.
When your dad heard that sound, was it mechanical or was it more like a rat scurrying across the floor?
He said it sounded like a female voice, almost like a whisper kind of.
Oh, like a pss, 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 pss,
Yeah,
pss.
like a ch-ch-ch-ch-ch-ch. I don't know. That's how he described it to
weird.
me. I don't know what was going on in that house, but it was fine to live in it. It was just, I always knew there was going to be some sort of weird energy happening.
I have a question. Maybe it's not so much ghosty probably, but Amanda was talking about having the same time that she woke up. What are your guys' thoughts on if you have the same number follow you? Is that more of a spiritual sort of thing that you guys follow, or what do you think about that? Because I've had a number follow me like my whole life, and I've always chalked up as me being just crazy or something.
It's called numerology, and it's like the numbers mean certain things. So I don't know what number it is, but I know enough to get by, but I also shamelessly Google. I'm like, 1111, what does this mean? But the interesting thing about that is that there's two trains of thought. One, more logical, being that you tend to notice this number more because you're like, that's odd, 42. I saw 42 here, and then your mind starts connecting to the pattern. But on the flip side, numerology is the process in which people can get signs and messages just through numbers. So I would Google what your number is and just type in the number and then type in numerology or angel numbers and just see what it says. And then I'd be interested because sometimes people will say that, like 333, everywhere they go, they're seeing the number 333. And once they stop and figure out what it means, the number will change to something else. So it's like, you've gotten our message. Great. Let's move on to the next one. That's my beginner's guide. I'm not an expert on that. I'm not a numbers person. So that's as far as it goes. I'm like, it means something cool.
What number is it?
608 is what I've had, which is a longer number.
What? No, Trevin, are you kidding me right now?
No.
Okay, I have to share something.
Do it.
First of all, I was born at 6:08 in the morning.
No way.
I'm not even joking at all. I wish I was. And also, Trevin, and I've always chalked this up to, because I have OCD. I have a lot of weird things that I do. I have an OCD brain. But the number 6 and the number 8 mean a lot to me. Like, whenever I'm struggling to figure out, like, oh, should I do this thing? Should I not? If I look at the time, or if I look at the radio station, or if I look at whatever numbers are around me, if the number is 6, it means yes. And if the number is 8, it means no.
That is awesome.
Interesting.
I've done it since I was like a preteen. It's so
It's
weird.
your own little divination system.
Yeah, yeah.
You assigned yes or no to something, and it works, right?
My football numbers were 68. My lunch card number in school was 608. I had 608 on my first license plate.
That's a lot of 608.
Well, and the weirdest thing about all of this is my parents divorced when I was really young, and I don't really know my mom. She's a wishy-washy character in my past, but there was a point in my life where she was trying to make contact when I was in my late teens. I've always been this weird about the 608 thing ever since I was probably like 5 or something. I've just always noticed it. And my dad had said, oh, your mom's coming around trying to get money or something. And he said, if you see anything from a 608 area code, don't answer it. And I was like, whoa, really? So that was just like, it really hit me hard there. And I thought, what are the chances of that one? So that's why I thought I would get your input there.
The fact that you both have this, I think, means that you're destined to, I don't know, run a podcast or something together.
Do great things together. Achieve success together.
That's wild. I never knew that about you. Learning something new.
Amanda and Trevin and Carly, this has been awesome. Thank you guys so much for coming on and sharing your stories with us. Tell everybody again where they can find your podcast and your website and all the things.
Yes. So we are on all the social medias, Instagram, TikTok. We're actually figuring out TikTok a little bit better these days, but
Yeah, I don't feel old at all.
so Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, Live Laugh Larceny. Still in the process of updating our website. I'm still working on that.
We have livelaughlarceny.com, but it's going to look a lot like Seriously Sinister if you go to it.
But no, you can listen anywhere. We are on any and every listening platform we could find. Just Live Laugh Larceny. And then also, if you have a petty crime story you want to share with us, you can send it to livelaughlarceny@gmail.com.
I've done that. You guys played the story when I was stuck in a bad part of Chicago.
Yes.
Lured off the trail by somebody who didn't want to walk alone. Yes.
Yeah, you were one of our first guest readers.
Yeah, she might have been second or third because it was West London Witch was like our first one.
Yep. Go ahead and check out that episode because that was a good one.
Thanks. And Carly, you have, again, Drinks and Disasters podcast, which is available everywhere but Apple.
Everywhere but Apple. Drinks and Disasters is available most places, except for Apple. And we do that weekly on Mondays. And you can also find me on Instagram at The Village Tarot Witch.
It's been such a joy to talk with you all. You're so much fun. Hainted Loves, for those of you listening, please be sure you check out our show notes for this episode at homespunhaints.com. And you can follow us on social. Instagram and TikTok is where we are most active, at Homespun Haints. And as always, if you'd like to support our podcast, we do have a Patreon, patreon.com/homespunhaints. Our patrons get all of these episodes commercial free along with bonus content. Well, if you find yourself waking up at 3:33 in the morning and a strange, naked fellow, all shadows, is wandering back and forth next to your bed, you're probably going to have a spooky day. Homespun Haints is hosted by Becky Kielimnik and Diana Doty, and produced by Homespun Haints Media LLC. Editing and music by Becky Kielimnik. Show notes by Diana Doty. If you have a ghost story and you'd like to be considered as a guest for this podcast, please visit our website at homespunhaints.com/submit.